Manhattan courtroom, 2003. The lights go down. Prosecutors press play on a home video and a jury settles in to watch a party. On the screen, a lavish celebration on the Italian island of Sardinia. A private concert. An ice sculpture, sculpted like a Renaissance statue, dispensing vodka to guests. The bill for the party ran to roughly $2 million. Prosecutors said the company had quietly paid for about half of it. Elsewhere in the evidence sat a smaller number that would follow this man for the rest of his life. A shower curtain that cost $6,000. The company was Tyco International, a sprawling industrial giant most people had never thought about. The man was its chief executive, and prosecutors were about to argue that he had treated one of America's largest corporations as his own private bank. This is the fall of Dennis Kozlowski. And this is how the money actually moved. Leo Dennis Kozlowski was not born to wealth. He grew up in Newark, New Jersey, the son of working parents, and joined Tyco in the 1970s as an auditor, a man who read other companies' books for a living. Tyco itself was a conglomerate, a single corporation that owned many unrelated businesses at once: fire protection and security systems, electronic components, industrial valves, even medical supplies. Its products were everywhere and almost invisible. Kozlowski became chief executive in 1992, and he grew Tyco the way a collector fills a cabinet, by buying hundreds of acquisitions, deal after deal, until Tyco's revenues ran into the tens of billions. In the business press, he earned a nickname, Deal a Day Dennis. For a while, he was celebrated as one of the great value creators of his era, a blunt, hard-charging operator who made shareholders rich. Alongside him worked his chief financial officer, Mark Swartz, the numbers man who understood the machinery of Tyco's finances better than almost anyone. Two men at the top of a corporate empire, and running quietly beneath them, a set of internal loan programs, company money, that could be borrowed by executives for specific, approved purposes. Those programs would become the center of the case. Here is the core of the case, as the government laid it out and a jury ultimately accepted. Tyco had a program, the Key Employee Loan Program, meant to help executives cover taxes when their company stock vested. According to the SEC, Kozlowski borrowed from it far beyond that purpose. The regulator alleged he drew on the program for something closer to a personal line of credit. In its civil complaint, the SEC said Kozlowski used roughly $242 million from that loan program on personal spending, yachts, fine art, jewelry, luxury apartments, and vacations. The agency's enforcement chief said the executives had treated Tyco as their private bank. There was a second layer, prosecutors charged. Beyond the loans, Kozlowski and Swartz awarded themselves tens of millions of dollars in bonuses and had company loans quietly forgiven. Payments the government said were never authorized by Tyco's board and never disclosed to the shareholders who owned the company. The money bought a life most people only glimpse in films. A Fifth Avenue apartment in New York, valued in the tens of millions. Old master paintings. The now infamous $6,000 shower curtain. A closet's worth of extravagances that prosecutors would later parade in front of a jury. And there was the party. In 2001, Kozlowski threw a 40th birthday celebration for his wife on Sardinia, roughly $2 million, prosecutors said, with the company covering about half under the guise of a business event. One prosecutor told the jury the party was a window into how the defendants saw Tyco. For a time, none of it showed. Tyco's stock was rising, the acquisitions kept coming, and the arrangement depended on a simple condition that no one would look too closely at where the executive's money was really coming from. The thread that unraveled it all did not start with Tyco's balance sheet. It started, according to reporting and prosecutors, with paintings. In 2002, New York investigators began looking into whether Kozlowski had dodged state sales tax on millions of dollars in art, allegedly shipping empty crates out of state to make it look as though the paintings had left New York. That inquiry pulled a thread. The thread led back into Tyco. As scrutiny mounted, Kozlowski resigned as chief executive in June 2002. Within months, the picture had widened from one man's tax bill into an allegation that the company's top two officers had looted it. On September 12, 2002, the Manhattan District Attorney announced criminal charges against Kozlowski and Swartz. The very same day, the Securities and Exchange Commission filed a parallel civil fraud case. A third executive, Chief Legal Officer Mark Belnick, was charged separately and would later be acquitted at his own trial. Prosecutors framed it plainly. The men had taken more than $150 million in unauthorized bonuses and forgiven loans, and, in their closing framing, had drained something on the order of $600 million from the company and its shareholders. The defense would answer that the payments were approved and that nothing had been hidden. The first trial ran for roughly 6 months. Jurors saw the apartments, the invoices, and 21 minutes of that Sardinian birthday video. And then, in April 2004, it collapsed. The judge, Michael Obus, declared a mistrial. One juror had come under intense outside pressure, including, the court noted, a coercive letter after her deliberations became the subject of a media storm. Months of testimony ended without a verdict. Prosecutors tried again. The retrial began in early 2005, and on June 17, 2005, the jury reached the verdict that had eluded the first. Kozlowski and Swartz were found guilty on 22 counts: grand larceny, securities fraud, conspiracy, and falsifying business records. They were acquitted on a single count. On September 19, 2005, Justice Obus sentenced each man to between 8 1/3 and 25 years in state prison. The court ordered them to pay $134 million in restitution to Tyco. Kozlowski was fined $70 million, Swartz $35. They served their time in New York's state system. Mark Swartz was released on parole in 2013. Dennis Kozlowski followed in January 2014 after roughly 8 years behind bars. One note the record demands: Kozlowski has never accepted the label the trial gave him. He has said publicly that his compensation was authorized and that he never believed he was stealing. A jury disagreed, and the conviction stands. But his own account is part of the story, and the viewer can weigh it. Strip away the shower curtain and the ice sculpture, and the Tyco case is really a story about a missing check. The question at trial was never whether the money moved. It was whether anyone with the authority to say no ever did. The government's case rested on a simple claim that the men who ran Tyco approved their own rewards and kept the board and the shareholders in the dark. When the people who control the company are also the people who set and hide their own pay, the ordinary safeguard of independent oversight quietly disappears. Tyco landed in the same season as Enron and WorldCom, and together those collapses reshaped the rules. In 2002, Congress passed a sweeping corporate accountability law that tightened boardroom oversight and made executives personally certify their numbers. The lesson regulators drew was old. Disclosure is only a safeguard if someone independent is actually watching. Tyco itself survived, restructured, and moved on. The men at the top did not escape the ledger. Dennis Kozlowski built an empire and then, a jury found, forgot where the company's money ended and his own began. If this breakdown was worth your time, subscribe. Next time, we trace another case where the numbers on the page and the money in the vault stopped matching. Follow the money.